Hello, everyone. I think people are
Hi.
rolling in. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to see everyone.
Hi.
Likewise.
Hey,
Hello.
good afternoon. Sorry, my webcam doesn't work, but
Oh, no problem. We don't require cameras.
hoping to get it fixed in the next week or so.
All right.
I'm
Sounds
just
good.
trying to locate where my camera even is. Because I have one. I'm just trying to figure out where.
That's okay. That's all right. So it is right at the top of the hour for me, but I'm gonna wait just a couple minutes to let everyone kind of trickle in since it's our first class. So, hello and welcome to Aspie Bootcamp Python. We're going to wait just a couple minutes to let everyone log in. We do have, I think, 95 people signed up for the course this summer, which is a lot. Of course, not everyone can participate in oh, make sure you're muted if you're not talking so that there's no echo. Sorry, that distracted me. But anyway, we have about 95 people signed up for the class, which is very exciting. Not everyone can participate in every single class. That's totally fine. But I do want to wait because I think I'm expecting a bit more people. So just maybe another minute or so before we get started. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there. We're just waiting. I'm gonna wait maybe till 5:02 my time, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and be sure to mute your microphone if you're not talking so that we don't have weird echoes. But please do put in the chat and say hello to everyone. Okay, it is 5:02 for me. I'm seeing everyone is saying hello, 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 everyone. It's great to see you. I'm super excited to get started with our first Aspie Bootcamp. To kick us off real quick, I am going to, looks like we are already recording, which is great. So first of all, nice to meet you all. I'm sharing my screen, so hopefully you can see it. I'm gonna go ahead and start this slideshow. So I'm super excited to kick off our meeting. My name is Miranda. You can just call me Miranda. No need for Ms. or anything. My pronouns are she, they, and I am going to be your Python instructor for this summer. So really looking forward to that. So let's just go ahead and jump on in. I wanted to have a little slide about me so that I'm not just some random person talking to you. That you don't know who they are. So like I said, I'm Miranda. I am an autism self-advocate. I was diagnosed with autism when I was 21. I am a senior data scientist at the Vanderbilt Data Science Institute in Nashville, Tennessee. But before that, actually, just a couple of months ago, I was a data scientist at NOAA, also known as the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is part of the federal government. I was there for a couple of years. I got a master's in data science from Vanderbilt, and I got a bachelor's in chemistry with a couple of minors from MTSU in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So I did not start in programming. As you can see, I started in chemistry. I really loved science. But then I discovered that I really hated labs. I really liked the math part of science instead of the hands-on stuff. And that's where I got introduced to programming. So I actually didn't start programming until after I was already in college. And I just immediately fell in love with it. I think it's really fun, a great way to solve problems. So I hope that you learn to love it as well. And maybe it's a new thing that you enjoy after this session. So just a couple of things about our class here. We will be running on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Nashville time. It's Central Time in the US. And we have a couple of rules and expectations if you're going to be joining our live sessions. The first is that if you're not speaking, make sure that you're muted so that we don't have any extraneous sounds coming through, or so we don't have a weird echo with multiple people talking at the same time. So if you're not speaking, stay muted, but please do use the raise hand button to ask questions. So if you go to, I think it should be under like reactions or something, or hand gestures, you should be able to put a little raise hand button. So I'm going to do that now so you can see what that looks like. Let's see, maybe I will do it. Okay, so for me, there's a button that says raise hand under reactions. Yep, I see a couple people are doing it. Hopefully, I don't know. Are you doing that because you have a question or because you're showing how to raise your hand? Okay, I think they're just showing how to raise their hands. So yeah, so now I can't figure out how to put my hand down. Man, Zoom is hard sometimes. Okay, I'm gonna lower my hand. So anyway, please raise your hand if you have a question. Or if you'd rather type your question, you don't want to talk out loud, that's totally fine. You can type that into the Zoom chat or in our class Discord at any time. I can't always monitor the chat to check for questions while I'm talking because Zoom is a lot to handle when you're hosting a meeting. But I do have several TAs online. Hello, TAs, if you're there. I can't see who all, I see a couple of you. So hello, TAs, and they will be able to answer your questions in the chat that I can't get to while I'm talking. So that's about all I have for questions. And do feel free to use like the Zoom icons, like a thumbs up for when you're understanding something, or maybe like a question mark or a thumbs down if you're not. Oh my goodness, Zoom. I think Zoom just recognized that I did a thumbs up. I just did that with my hand. I didn't press that button. That was cool. Anyway, I didn't know Zoom could do that. But give a thumbs up if you understand or something, you know, maybe I might say that and ask for some participation. So feel free to do that if I say, okay, do a thumbs up if you understand, or like a thumbs down if you don't, something like that. So we may have some stuff like that happening. Outside of class, you're welcome to ask me questions via email. But probably the fastest way that you'll hear back from someone is to ask questions on our Discord, which I did send out a link to everyone. So if you need that, I can send it to you again. Please do send me your Discord username if you haven't already, just so I can make sure that the only people in our Discord server are people that are taking part in the class. Like I said, we do have a couple TAs. I put their names in our syllabus. They'll also have a special TA role in the Discord server that marks them as a TA, so you know that they are able to answer your questions. But of course, if you see someone's question in the Discord and you feel like answering it, or maybe saying that you have the same question, please do that. We'd love for the Discord server to be very interactive outside of class. And of course, you can email me if you're having issues of any kind. We'll also have another person here helping me run the class. Her name is Jess Stasek. She is going to be a little bit late today, but you'll get to meet her when she arrives. So please do connect with other students and, of course, have fun with these assignments. So we're calling this a boot camp, which sounds kind of scary, but it's not scary. This is meant to be a fun resource for you to learn how to program. And the assignments are not graded. They are just assignments for you to do to know that you have learned and apply your new skills. So please do complete the assignments, but don't stress over them. If they are hard or if you're having trouble, you know, ask someone in Discord for help, or ask some people how maybe they solved a problem. The goal here is to have fun and to learn. Stress-free environment. So with that out of the way, I've also linked the syllabus here. If you have questions, please do check the syllabus. If it's a question about class, like what time does class meet? When should I show up to class? What is the Zoom link? Maybe check the syllabus before asking those kind of questions. But if the answer is not on the syllabus, then feel free to ask. So before moving on, does anybody have any questions about the class as a whole before we get started? Okay, I'm not seeing Okay, that's a good question. So I see, will we get a certificate afterwards? We don't have any sort of official certificate. I might be able to ask the Frisk Center if they can provide one. But that's a good question. We haven't done that in the past, but maybe we will. Any other questions? Yeah, so recordings, you'll find information for that on the syllabus. And then are there homework assignments? There will be homework assignments. How I will typically structure them is I will introduce an assignment either on Tuesday or Thursday. And after I introduce an assignment, we will have time in class to work on that assignment. If you want to, you can be sent to a breakout room to work on it with other students, or you can sit quietly in this main room and work on it and then type in the chat or ask questions if you need help. I don't expect you to commit much time outside of our class meetings from 5 to 6 because I don't want to use up all of your time. Of course, if you want to do extra stuff, I do have links to extra tutorials or extra exercises that you can work on that I will put onto the homework if you want extra stuff to work on, but definitely not stressful homework situation. All right. Yes, you will have access to the PowerPoint slides if you click on that syllabus link. So I've put the slides in several locations. First of all, there is a shared Google Drive that you should all have access to. I've emailed out a link to that. Also, if you look at the syllabus has a link to the Google Drive, and everything for the class will be in the Google Drive, including the syllabus and slides for the class. So I just made these slides and put them in the Google Drive today. So hopefully you are able to see them. Yeah, great. Okay, so I'm kind of monitoring the chat. I think my lovely TAs are picking up on that for me. Thank you so much, TAs. And good to see you. Okay, so if that's all the questions that we have about this class, don't worry, you can ask more later as well, but let's go ahead and get started. So another thing about the course, specifically, we will be using what's called Replit. This is a website for writing and running Python scripts. The purpose of using this instead of, downloading Python is so that everyone can have the same coding environment and that we're not like comparing, computers, like maybe your computer is older or you have a Mac versus a Windows. I want us all to be on the same environment while we're learning so that if you have questions, I know exactly what kind of coding environment you are in. It's very easy to get started in Replit, and you all should have created an account before class started because you sent me your usernames to sign up for the class. So I'll show you exactly how I want you to use Replit, and we'll do that together in a couple of minutes. The next resource is Discord. This is optional, but I highly recommend it if you would like to connect with other students or ask your questions outside of class. Please feel free to use that as both a coding resource and, getting to know people. We're all neurodivergent or mostly neurodivergent here, so please know that this is a judge-free zone. I'd really love us to make some great connections with people that are similar to us. The final resource is called Free Code Camp. That's a website that I've linked here. This is completely optional, but if you want extra practice or to quiz yourself, they have a series of video lessons on Python that you can go through, and then there'll be quiz questions after the video. And so that's something extra. If you like to do extra stuff to make sure that you understand it, please feel free to use that as a resource as well. And of course, how is this class going to be different from other coding classes, from other boot camps? Well, first of all, and this is our goal that we had in mind at the Frisk Center for Autism and Innovation, is that we wanted to create a coding course that was actually made by neurodivergent people for neurodivergent people. So if you're unfamiliar with the term, neurodivergent just means that your brain works different from most people's brains. So you could be on the autism spectrum, you could have ADHD or OCD or even dyslexia. All sorts of things fall under the umbrella of neurodivergent. And we want to create these resources because our brains work differently, and a lot of things are aimed at neurotypical people. So we wanted to create this resource where we really embrace neurodiversity. It's a judgment-free zone, and we focus on neurodivergent learning styles and presenting as neurodivergent. So we do want to pay attention to any accommodations you might need for the class. There are captions available for the Zoom. If you go to like more, I think, or click on closed captions, you should be able to access those. Please let me know if there's anything else that you might need. in regards to accommodations. And of course, we want this to be a welcoming environment for all. So please be kind when you're talking to other people. And also please try to understand that, sometimes people may come across as brisk or abrupt over Zoom or over text, and just assume that, we're all trying to be positive here. But with that caveat of, I want you guys to all be positive and kind to each other. If you want more information on the Frisk Center or maybe some other programs that we have available, you can go to the Frisk Center website. Okay, so now for what you can do after the course. First and foremost, you'll be able to create original coding projects. So really, a lot of things that you might want to be able to do in coding, you'll hopefully by the end of the summer be able to do some of those things. You'll be able to list Python as an experience or a skill on your resume, so that if you apply to jobs that require you to know Python, you should have a basic understanding of Python that can get you into a lot of those job circles. You'll also be expanding your Python skills, even if you already came in with some programming knowledge. Python is a great language to learn. And you'll be able to learn more programming languages. Once you learn one, a lot of people go on to learn others. So I started with Python, I then learned C++ and C# and JavaScript and so on and so on. So once you learn one, it makes it a lot easier to learn others because they follow a certain set of logic. So I will ask about getting the certificate for the course. I'll see if that's something we can do, maybe not, but at least you will have this new knowledge of Python and a newfound community of other neurodivergent learners that are going along beside you. So I'm gonna pause real quick to check the chat. Are we going to be doing most of the work on Replit? Yes, you will. You will be doing all of your work on Replit, unless for whatever reason you set up your own thing, which you're welcome to do, but I can't help you if you run into software issues. So we're going to be doing all of our coding on Replit, and I will show you how to do that. All right. Looks like the questions are being taken care of. Great. So for today's class, you will need Replit already up. We're going to log into that. I'm going to show you how to set up files in Replit. So please do go ahead and have your username and password. However you log into Replit, go ahead and have that available to you. Obviously, don't share that with anyone, but do have that available because I will be going to Replit pretty quickly, and then we'll be working on stuff together. So feel free to either follow along in the Zoom class by just watching what I'm sharing on my screen or trying it yourself in your own window. Either one is fine. Some people like to just watch because it's too much to manage too many screens at once. Some people really like the interactiveness of typing at the same time as I'm typing. So, all right, that's what you need for today's class, and that's about it. So, checking the chat one last time to see. So how to put this class on a resume? Yeah, so I think the best way to do that would probably be to put under like skills, you could put Python, and then put completion of a Python course. And, there's a bunch of different ways to do that as well. And if that's all we have for questions, then let's go ahead and get into the course. Yay! So we did all of the pre-stuff. Now let's start learning. So first, we're going to talk about what's called CLI versus GUI. So CLI stands for, I have that backwards. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. And this is where you're going to use your mouse or your keyboard to interact with different graphics on your computer screen. Now, this is how you would typically interact with a computer. It's how you're interacting with your computer right now. You're using your mouse to point and click on something, and then your computer does something based on what you point and clicked at. That's called a GUI. The other type of interacting with your computer is called a command line interface. And this is where you type commands directly into your computer. You're not using a mouse, you're not seeing any sort of pictures or graphics or logos. You are just typing commands to your computer for it to carry out. So a little example of what this looks like. Here we have the Windows Graphical User Interface, or GUI. This is an example of what the Windows GUI looks like. I have pressed this start button here, and you have settings, you have alarms, calculator. I have all of these programs on my computer, and if I wanted to access one of those, I would click on it. That's an example of graphical user interface. Graphics, it's in the name. Another type of interacting with your computer, the CLI or command line interface, looks something like this, where really you just have a bunch of text and you don't need to understand what this text means just yet. But I do want you to know the difference between pointing and clicking on the GUI and having to type in commands on the CLI. So the differences between these is that with the GUI, you can use your mouse to click on images or logos or anything visual. In the CLI, you are actually just typing on your computer to interact with your computer. You're directly giving it commands. So these are a couple of different ways for interacting with computers. And when we're programming, we are often using something similar to this, where we are typing commands to our computer to then carry out. So a couple of important points is that command line interface is very important for programmers to learn and use. We're not going to do a ton on command line interface after today, but I do want to give you that introduction for it because it lays the foundation for what you're going to be doing in programming. And for this class, we're going to use the command line interface on Replit. So I will show you how to access that in just a bit. The second part of computers that I want to introduce you to is files, directories, and paths. And I said, oh my. So first of all, your computer organizes, this is any computer, will organize files into directories, which you may also call folders. But in the programming world, we tend to say directories. I don't know why, we just chose that word. And so these directories or folders can be located using a path. So in this one, it might be my computer /documents/myfile.txt. And these slashes represent going inside of another directory or folder. So I have an image here on the right of my file explorer. I have a path that is this PC, documents, Aspie Bootcamp, and then within Aspie Bootcamp, I have another folder called my folder. In a graphical user interface like this one, you can click into different folders to find files. So if I have a file named like example file, but it is not in the Aspie Bootcamp folder, I can't access it from here. I would have to move around, click around to get to that file. And it's very similar in command line interface, except instead of pointing and clicking, you are typing that directly. And I'm going to move my zoom bar around. Okay. So in a command line interface, instead of clicking on each folder that you want to enter, you will actually type out the path that you want to use. So in this case, it's users/Miranda/documents/Aspie Bootcamp. So that's an example of a path in a graphical user interface and command line interface. They will be the same paths, but they're just different ways of interacting. So in this one, you're pointing and clicking, and in this one, you're typing in the path to the file. And this is exactly how a computer organizes everything. Everything is organized into a folder. There's different types of describing where something is within a computer. The first is an absolute path, and this starts from the very first directory called the root directory. It is what happens when you save something without giving it a specific directory. Sometimes it'll send it just to, just your base directory, usually called computer or PC or something. And so this is an example. An absolute path will start from the very beginning, which for me is C/users/Miranda/documents/Aspie Bootcamp. So that's an absolute path. A relative path starts from where you currently are. So in this example here, I'm currently in the directory Aspie Bootcamp. And if I wanted a path to my folder, I could just say /, that means where I am, my folder, because I can look at it and see that it's relative to where I am. You can think of this like how a building may be organized. So if you're walking into a building and someone is asking you directions, how do I get to this room? Then you might say, go into the building, turn left, and then the room is the second on the right. That would be an absolute path because you're starting from the entrance to the building. You're starting from the very beginning. Go into the building and then do all of this to get to the room. But let's say you and your friend are in some other hallway and they're asking how to get to a room in a different hallway. Well, then you can say, you can go down this hallway and take a right, and then it's in this other place. So you can kind of think of it as how you locate physical objects or rooms. So are there any questions on files, directories, and paths before I move on? All right, I've got a no questions. That's great. I actually appreciate you typing in no if you don't have a question, because then I don't awkwardly wait too long. But if you do have a question, please do put it in the chat, and we'll try to get to it, or use the raise hand function. And I should be able to see if you're raising your hand, but TAs, if I don't see someone with a raised hand, please let me know. Okay, well, great. You guys are great on files, directories, and paths. Oh, yes, Sterling.
Yes. I'm worrying about something else. Worry about something else new, right?
Sorry, do you have a question about it?
Sure. About worrying about something else about me, this whole thing, right?
What's your question?
About worrying about something new, right?
Oh, are you asking if we're going to talk about something else?
Yes.
Yeah, we will. I'm just waiting for questions.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Okay, we should be good. So I'll go ahead and move on, because you guys seem to be pretty solid with this. So then with command line interface commands, these are just instructions that we give to the computer via the command line interface, also called the terminal. These run relative to your current working directory, which is the folder that you're currently in. So you're going to give the computer instructions by typing them out, and those instructions are going to run based on the folder you're in. So if you're trying to access a specific document, that document needs to be in that folder that you're currently sitting in. So we're going to go over some basic command line commands. And please do note that all commands that you give to your computer are case sensitive. Computers are very literal. Everything needs to have the same casing. Most of the time that is lowercase. So the first one is PWD. This is print working directory. And this prints where you're located in the file system. I'll go over these and then we'll apply them. The next one is change directory. This lets you change your location to another folder or directory. It's just like if you, on a GUI, you clicked onto a different folder. In this case, you're just typing out which folder you want to be in. The next one is make directory, MKDIR. It stands for make directory, and this lets you make a new folder in the one that you're currently in. And then another one that we have that's very common is called list, LS, and this will list all of the files and directories in your location. So let's go ahead and try this out. I thought I had a link to Replit already up, but in this case I didn't. So please make your way to Replit. I'm going to click on this link. And
I
hopefully
actually use Python itself.
you don't. I'll show you how to use it. But also please raise your hand before unmuting so that I know who is talking.
Tanya.
Okay, but please just raise your hand and then I'll call on you and then you can unmute. All right, so I have gone ahead and opened Replit. I've already been logged in, so I don't have to do that again. So go ahead and log in. Hopefully you've already done that at the beginning of class. So does anyone need more time to log in? All right, looks like we're all good. So I will go ahead and click this button, blue button here. It says create REPL. So I'm going to click that, and then it asks for template. For this exercise, we're just going to do blank. You can type in blank if that doesn't show up immediately. This just means I don't want any sort of programming language associated with this one. I just want to test out some command line stuff. So I'm going to make mine called CLI example, type in that title. And then they have some other stuff they ask you, you can ignore that. And then I'm going to click create. So it's going to load up this environment for us. And this is what we're going to be coding in. We're not starting with Python right now. We are just starting with these command line commands. So you see it has this file on this side right here. We can ignore that. Just hit that X. You don't even need to know that. And then we have this that says console and another one that says shell. For this, click on shell. So now we are in shell is another word for the command line interface that I was talking about. So if we want to see what directory we're in right now, we can type pwd and then you press enter. And it gives me this. So it says I'm in the directory home/runner/cli-example. So now let's say I want to see what else might be in this directory. I'm going to type ls, enter. And it gives me a couple things. So it has this readme.md file, and then this replit.nix file. These are just files that Replit creates automatically depending on the template that you selected when you create your file. So now another command that we talked about using is make directory. What if I want to make my own folder? I'm going to type mkdir, all one thing, make directory, then a space, and then I'm going to type in what I want that name to be. So make directory and then the name of the directory you want to create. I'm going to call it new folder and then enter. And there it goes. So you can see over here, it has kind of a GUI for you to look at, and you can see that it created that folder for us. So now if I type list ls, it's going to show me that new folder. And if I want to change into that folder, who wants to guess what I will type if I want to move to new folder? Go ahead and put in the chat, what am I going to do if I put, if I want to change directories into the new folder? Yes, I'm getting some amazing answers. Yes, the answer is CD. So I'm going to type CD and then the name of the folder I want to change to. So new _ folder. And now we know that we're in this new folder because it added it to this little relative path. Remember relative paths? It added this to our relative path at the beginning here. So sometimes people, when they start learning command line, they ask me, what is all this stuff? This squiggly line, CLI example, new folder, $sign. That is just an indication to you, sometimes like where you are in your computer, what folder you're in. And then the $sign, it just means that that's ending and your input is now starting. So just to review what we just did, we can click print working directory to see what folder we're in. And we are in fact in new folder. We can type ls or list to print out what is in this directory. In this case, there's nothing because we just created a folder. We didn't put anything in it. Now, if we want to change directories, we can do, I'm going to show you something special. So you say change directory. And then you're going to do .. That is a special Linux command line signal for go to the previous directory. So yes, exactly. So someone was saying the squiggly line refers to your home directory. That's exactly right. And the dot refers to the directory you're currently in. So if I just did that, that would just put me right where I am. Now, if I say cd .. that is the directory before that. So now if I press enter on cd .. it puts me in CLI example. I'm going to type ls. That's always good to see, kind of get the feeling of where you are. Type ls and then see everything that's in the directory with you. And I see new folder, readme, and then this other thing that Replit created. All right, so I know that this is, okay, so some people are asking, how do we get to what I just did? So if you're on Replit, there should be a button that's blue and it says create REPL. And then you're going to type in template, you can say blank, but really anything is fine as long as you get to this shell tab right here. So don't worry, we'll be using a lot of REPL and then I will, you'll get used to it by the time the rest of the classes we do. Okay, I'm just checking for questions. So are there any questions on these Linux or command line commands that we have gone over so far? I'm going to go back to the slides real quick. So any questions, please raise your hand or type in the chat. And if you type in the chat, the TAs can answer your questions. All right. Amazing. And I know for some of you that came in with programming experience, you probably already know this. For others, this is completely new though. So I do want to make sure everyone is starting on the same page as everyone else so that when we move to actual Python programming, we understand kind of how the computer works behind the Python programming. Awesome. So now the next set. Sorry, my slides got disorganized. Let's see. So let's see, we were on print working directory. Okay, so we've tried out those commands right here. Oh, I see a couple people are raising their hand. Mary Beth, go ahead.
Hi, I just have a quick question. Will this portion be on the YouTube video? It went a bit fast for me, so I'd like to be able to go back to Replit and practice it and just kind of review. I know this is pretty basic for a lot of people, but this is all brand new for me.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you asked that. And that's exactly why I want to go over it, is because everyone is starting from a different place. So yes, the whole class will be on YouTube, and I will upload that recording as soon as it downloads to my computer after the class ends. And then I will send out that link to everyone. So, or you can just check the YouTube and keep refreshing it. But yes, this will be on there. And a great way to practice is to watch the video and follow along with me again if you did not get it quite the first time. Rizvi, go ahead.
Hi, so about the final assignment, do we have to make some sort of software, I suppose?
There's not really a final assignment. I'll have a couple of them. It's I don't have them like set in stone right now. There will be a sort of final assignment, but it's not graded. It's just something for you to combine everything that you've learned, but it will probably come from freecodecamp.org.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be anything that making a software, right? So it's just
No. It'll just be
okay.
on what we learned about Python.
I understand.
All right,
And,
Giuseppe. Oh, sorry. Did you have another question?
oh yeah, another question. In the PC gaming, when PC gamers use this kind of coding, some sort of coding manager, it's where they change the characters model into something else. You know what that's called? Is that called modding? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, mods. That's kind of not really it's out of the scope of our class though, but yes, that is called modding. You could probably, no, it's okay. I'm sure people will be very excited to talk with you about modding in the Discord though, so be sure to do that. Rizvi, did you have another question?
Oh, that's it. That's all I have.
Okay, just making sure. All right, please do raise your hand if you have other questions. Those were really great questions. And like I said, I know that this is not new for some of you, but it is very new for others. So thank you all for going along with us as we all learn it. Sterling, did you have a question?
Yes. What is
Okay.
something about doing something about reading these words? About
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand your question. Can you say that again?
can we read about this whole picture, please?
Yes, we will, but I do pause for questions, and so that's what I'm doing. So you don't have to ask for me to continue because I will continue. All right. So now for some more basic command lines, some other things that you may want to do, copy a file, that would be CP, move a file, MV. So maybe you want to copy a file, that's like creating a copy of it, duplicating it, moving a file, moving it to a different location. RM will be for removing a file, so deleting it. And one thing to note is that with these command lines, when you remove a file, there's no way to get it back. It's not like in Windows where you click delete and it gets moved to the very nice recycling bin, and then you're like, oh, I didn't mean to delete that, I'm going to get it right back. Nope, can't do that. When you remove a file, it is gone forever. So that's removing a file. Removing a directory or a folder takes this little extra -R. This is called a flag. We won't really talk about what those are, but you'll say remove RM space -R, and then the name of the directory you want to remove. We put this -R in just because it's a safeguard against deleting an entire directory and everything in it by accident. And also because of the way that computers delete files, which I won't get into. And then the final command that we're going to learn is cat, which it stands for catenate. And this prints the contents of a file. So if you have a text file and you say cat and then, myfile.txt, that will print all of the contents of that. So I have an example of me using all of these commands. So first I type, So first up here, I've typed ls list to give me the directories that are around. Next, I type copy main.py. So I'm going to copy a file called main.py to my Python file.py. And now when I do ls, it gives me all of these. So I have these screenshots here, not because I need you to read it all at once, but because after the class, if you want to see what we did today, you can go back to those. I loosely follow those examples that I had for the previous class. So real quick, I'm going to show you these. We have copy, move, remove, all of those. So I'm going back to my command line. Hopefully you're able to get back here. So we've done ls. We see our new folder, our readme and replit.nix. I'm going to copy the readme.md file. You can just type the name of the file right here. It's okay if you don't know what the .md means. That's just a special kind of text file called Markdown. And I'm going to rename it new file.md. I'm just keeping the extension the same because you don't want, it's pretty safe to do that if you're unsure of the file extension. So I copy it. Now it doesn't seem to do anything because it doesn't need to print out anything. As soon as you press enter, you know that your computer did the command you just asked. How can we check? We can type ls list. So now we see I have readme and I have new file.md. And if I were to compare the contents of those would be the same. Now let's say that I was like, oh, actually, I don't want to have this new file anymore. I am going to remove it. I would say rm new file.md. rm new file.md. I'm going to press enter and that will remove it. Again, no indicator as to if it did what I asked it to. But now if I type ls, you can see I got rid of that other folder, that other file that we created called new file. So let's say I want to move a file. We've copied a file, we've deleted a file, but what if I just want to move it from one folder to the next? I'm going to move readme. So I'm going to type mv, which stands for move readme.md. Remember that it is case sensitive, so this is in all uppercase. So I'm going to type move readme.md and then the location that I want it to go to. Dot stands for where you currently are, and then you're going to put a slash to go into another folder. The only other folder we can go into from here is new folder. So I'm going to do new _ folder. So this says move the readme file to new folder, which we can see right here. I'm press enter on that. And if I type ls, now we see the readme is gone. Where did it go? It went to new folder. So if we change directories, cd into new folder, press enter. Now I'm going to type ls to see what's in this folder. Before it was empty. Now there's the readme. It's like magic, but it's not magic. It's commands. And then the last one that we had was catenate. So for that, you type cat and then the file that you want to see the contents of. So in this case, we're going to do cat readme.md. If I press enter on that, it's going to print out everything that was in that file, which is a lot. So this is just everything that was in the file. And then at the end of the file, it goes back to this squiggly line. You can type in commands again. So I'm going to type ls. And there we are. So that is our brief overview of command lines. If that was too fast for you, please do go back and review the video that I'll put up. Also review this little screenshot that I've put on there and try to go through each step. We're not going to do a ton with command lines, but they are important to know for programmers. And the reason it's important for programmers to know is because using the command line allows you to run programs and edit files much more efficiently. It's a lot faster to type something than it is to point and click on it or click through files and find things. So a lot of programmers do use this command line interface, although not all of them have to. So it's kind of personal preference, but I do find a lot of jobs require you to know basic command line interface skills. And if you get lost, don't worry, I've linked this command cheat sheet that includes even some other commands that I didn't go over today. Don't be afraid to look up a command if you don't remember it. This applies to all of programming. If you don't remember how to do something in Python on the computer in command line, you can either Google it and you will probably get a right answer, or for command line, you can consult this cheat sheet. I don't expect you to have all of these memorized immediately. There will not be a quiz. There will not be a quiz. So don't worry. You can use this cheat sheet to get around the terminal just fine. All right, so together we're going to practice this. So I'm going to give us a couple of minutes. All together, go to the term. So when I say all together, I mean we're going to stay in this room here and try out this exercise on your own. So go to your terminal in Replit. Find out where you are using print working directory. And I will do this along with you. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do this for yourself. Go through as many steps as you can. And then in a couple of minutes, I will show you all how I would do this exercise. And then we will move on to Python. So go ahead, do this task right here. Go to the terminal, find out where you are, list the contents, and then continue on steps 4 through 7. In a couple minutes, I will show you how I would go about doing this. Okay, so a couple minutes, and I know a couple people needed help. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to accomplish this task. So I'm going to X out of or escape out of my slideshow. Okay, so first step, go to the terminal. We did that. Find out where you are using pwd. So I'm just going to type clear. That just got rid of everything else that I had before to make it look nicer. Don't worry about that. So let's see where I am in this directory. I'm going to do pwd and then press enter. Now let's see, next part, list the contents of the directory using ls. I'm going to type ls. This will tell me what is in this directory with me. I've got a readme there. Yours might look different depending on what you have done with your directory or how Replit set up your file. Like I said, I started my file with a template called blank. You may have started your template with something else. That's completely fine. We're just all exploring our little command line center here. No problem if yours looks different, as long as your commands work. Next, I'm going to make a directory called test directory. Now go ahead and type in the chat what command, including, so the command and whatever you put after the command, what did you type into your terminal to make this test directory? Go ahead and type in the chat. What did you type to make a new directory called test directory? Please put your answers in the chat. Yeah, I'm seeing some answers pop up. Make directory, make directory. Give a couple more minutes for people to put in their answers. What would you type in to the terminal to make a new directory called test directory? Yeah, great job. So you're going to do mkdir. So that's the command for make directory. You can't just type the words make and the words directory. It does not understand plain English. Need to use these commands. So mkdir space, the name of the directory I want to create. So let's see, I wanted to call it test underscore directory. And then that made my directory. So let's see if it actually did. I'm going to type ls. And then we have test directory right here. So it did make our new directory. So now list the contents of test directory. So first we have to go in, whoops, I skipped that one. Let's go into test directory using change directory. And I saw a comment there. I was acknowledging that someone had already put something in the chat, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily right. So I do encourage everyone to go ahead and answer. And if I talk about your answer, that's perfectly fine. I won't mention any names. So now if I want to change into my new directory, I'm going to go cd test underscore directory. And now I have changed my directory. We can see here because it gives us our little path. And now what's the next step? List the contents of test directory. It should be empty. Let's try ls. It is empty. It didn't give us anything. And now if we want to go back to the directory before this one, we're going to do cd for change directory and then ... for the previous directory. And there we are. So do we have any questions about how I did this or about how we can use the command line? Go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question or put some in the chat. I do see which coding language is this. I think Brendan's answering that. Yeah, it's called Bash, but it is just a basic way for a basic way for communicating with your computer. All right. What's with the ... dots? That's a good question. So this is just saying that there's extra information here that the computer didn't want to put out. So this entire thing right here is a path. It starts from the home directory and then it has a slash. It says ... because it says there's lots of other directories in here. I don't want to print them out. So cd ... there does need to be a space in between cd and the dot because you're telling it what directory you want. So make sure that when you type these commands, you're paying careful attention to where spaces are. So it's cd space what directory you want to be in. So if I do test directory. Okay, awesome. All right, let me see if anyone, I see, yes, William, you have your hand up?
Yes, I think it was answered in the chat, but we are working in the shell icon versus the console icon. It was answered that the console will actually, it won't run if you test it. So can you explain the difference between that? The console?
Yeah, so it is very important that we're in the shell right now. If I click on console and I try to do the same thing, I say pwd, it kind of works. You can say list, it also kind of works. The main difference, always use shell. Shell will always work. Console, with Replit, it depends on the programming language you start. So sometimes console can be for like a Python console. Just as a rule of thumb, use shell. I'm not 100% sure what the difference is in Replit between the console and the shell. So I'm assuming whatever answer was put in chat is probably correct, but definitely use the shell. Console will kind of change depending on what programming language you're going to use in Replit.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, it was kind of not the best answer, but
No, it's perfect.
go ahead. Okay, awesome. Hunter.
So from my understanding, I think, so if you're working with Python or JavaScript, when you print things out, say, like print hello world, like the screenshot I showed, it'll print it out to the console. The shell is more of commands. So like you get error messages in the console. Like if you make a mistake in your code, you press run, you'll get error messages printed out to that. And then shell is where you're actually doing what Miranda's doing.
Yes, that's a great explanation. Thank you so much for that, Hunter. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm getting some direct messages, but please don't send direct messages to me because I can't always see them. Unless it's like a TA or someone trying to get my attention, that's okay. Let's see. But yes, do check the syllabus because it will tell you about other class information. I'm getting some questions like that, and that's all right. Okay, so going back to the slides, commands are really nice. We can do a lot of things with them, but what if we want to give our computer more complicated instructions, and not just one line by line, like change directory, make directory, delete this directory? What if we want to do things that are more complicated? What if we want to save the instructions or the commands that we gave our computer and then run them again, maybe over and over, maybe on different days, maybe weeks apart? And we don't want to just have to type into our terminal everything that we just typed today over and over again. What if we want to give instructions to our computer in a more understandable way, something that reads more like English instead of, letters that you can kind of see, like MKDIR stands for make directory. But if I didn't tell you that, you may not have known what that meant. What if we want to interact with our computer in a more natural language way? Well, this is where programming comes in, and this is where programming is super useful. Programming is a way for us to interact with computers, and it gives computers instructions, but we're able to save these instructions. We're able to choose the language we write these instructions in. So we're going to be learning Python, but there's plenty of other languages you can learn. And programming is reproducible. You save the file that you wrote your instructions in, and then you can run that file as many times as you want. So this is a little bit easier to deal with if you have more complicated instructions for your computer that you want to give it. Programming. So as I said before, it uses a structured language to give instructions to a computer. So there are words, keywords that you need to know, but a lot of languages like Python really kind of read intuitively. These instructions are written to a file. So you would open a file with the .py extension for Python. And then inside that file, you're going to write whatever programming language you know or want to use. There's many to choose from. In this class, we're going to be learning Python. So why Python? Why not C or C++? Well, a lot of people like Python. A lot of people start on Python as their first programming language. That is what I did. That's what a lot of colleges do, because it's very beginner friendly. The syntax, or how commands are formed in Python, reads a lot like English. It's not exact, but it is easier to read than something like C. And it's really great for scientific or mathematics applications, which a lot of people are going into now. So you will see mathematicians, you'll see scientists, psychologists, all using Python because it's easy to learn, but also because it's really good at doing some mathematical calculations that you might need to answer research questions. So that's just one of the many reasons why people really like Python and why we're going to focus on it in this class. So first, how do you access Python? So you're going to access it in a special kind of software called an IDE. This stands for Integrated Development Environment. And this is basically just a special software that allows you to write and run Python code. This is just like you use Microsoft Word to write documents, or you might use PowerPoint to write presentation slides. It's a specialized software that knows what you mean when you write Python code. This software can be on your local machine where you download it to your computer, or it can be on the cloud, which is basically just a service hosted elsewhere. So in this class, we're not going to be downloading anything unless you really want to. You're welcome to play around with downloading Python yourself. You can go to this link to download Python, but that is completely optional, and you will, need to set it up, which is not really part of the class. But for a cloud service, Python is typically included. You don't have to download it or set it up in any way, which is why we're using Replit. It is a cloud service that's going to allow us to program without having to download anything to our computer. And because you created an account, it's going to save the programs that you write so that you can access them from anywhere. So we're going to be using Replit in this course. So here's an example picture of Replit. We've already kind of messed around with it. But here's my Replit page when I first go there. And like I said, free online tool. There is a paid version. Don't pay for anything related to this class. If you want to, you can, but I don't want anyone to be paying for things that they don't need. Every tool here should be free. You will click on the blue Create REPL to start a new file right here or here. And then you're going to select your programming language. So just like before, we didn't really want anything specific because we were using the command line. So this template part was called blank. When we do our Python files, you're going to type Python into the template. It should pop up just like this. Just type in Python, and then it'll usually come up with some automatically generated title. You can either keep that automatically generated title, or I typically change mine to be something more descriptive of what I want to work on in that file so that I can find it later. And then you'll just click this Create REPL button. So that's what we'll be doing. That's our workflow, and we're going to be creating these Python files. And I'm just going to check the time. I see we've got just about 1 minute left, which is perfect timing. So we're not going to get into Python just yet today, but we have covered all of the pre-learning stuff that I wanted you to have, the foundations, before we get started with Python. So hopefully you know now how to access your Replit account, how to play around with the terminal, and please reference these slides and try to practice them. And then we will review the rest of the half of these slides on Thursday and go over our first assignment. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. I have greatly enjoyed this first session of Aspie Bootcamp with you. I hope you have. Please, the last couple of minutes, if you have any questions, go ahead and stick around. I can't stay for a long time, but I can stay for a few minutes to answer some class questions. But if you're good, then I will see you on Thursday. Thank you so much. It's great to meet you. Reach out if you have any questions. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Yes, William.
Hi. So what kind of things, this is very new to me, what kind of things can we expect to create from this? Because I'm seeing the templates, but what is kind of a bigger picture that we can expect to see from this kind of information?
Like what you do with Python?
Yeah, what will we create? Is it websites? Are they apps? I'm just not familiar with what we're creating.
Yeah, so we're not going to be creating any sort of like graphical user interface or like UI that you're going to click on. In this class, we're just covering the basics of Python, which is going to be like operations. We're going to learn how to do mathematical operations. We're going to learn how to get input from the console, from the command line. We're going to learn how to, if we get to it, we may do files, how to read and write files, stuff like that. So it's mostly, if you're familiar with the front and back end distinction, it's mostly back end stuff that we're going to be learning. So kind of some basic like calculators and logic or math problems and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we're learning how to operate this machine, basically learn the language that it talks and have it talk back to us, seems like. Okay, well, this was really fun.
Oh, I'm really glad. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for the great questions.
Yeah, thank you. If I have more of your time, I might have to email you this, but it might be good to take a poll. I was thinking if we could take a poll onto people who type versus the people that talk on Discord, if we could, because I know that you said there's like 75 people in the class or something like that. So it might be hard, but I know I like to talk, so I'll probably join the Discord. But on Zoom, it's difficult. So I don't know if that's something we could talk about later, but.
Yeah. If you have any like specific concerns, feel free to email me, but we do have a couple of like voice channels on Discord that you're welcome to use. And then also like chat channels as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Hunter.
Another example of what you could use Python for. So like if you're in college or high school or whatever it may be, you can like put in your grades and it can calculate your GPA average. So something like that.
Yeah, that's a really great example. Brendan, hello.
Hi, nice to hear your voice again.
Yeah, you too.
Anyways, I'll be staying around in case anyone else has any questions before we all depart for today. But I saw a person in the chat. Their name was Jack S. I don't think we were able to get to their question before they left the call early. So just try to contact them if you can and see if what they're confused about. Might have lost them
Okay.
in the first minutes of
Yeah.
our lecture.
Awesome. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Yeah. I appreciate that. I will reach out to that person.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any more questions? And we do have the Discord on at all times. If you have questions you want to ask TAs or the group or just general things.
Cody, yes, the recording of this class session will be posted onto the YouTube channel later, like within a few hours, right, Miranda?
Yeah, as soon as I end the Zoom session, Zoom starts downloading the video to my computer. And then as soon as that's done, I upload it back to YouTube. So depending on internet speeds, I do it as fast as I possibly can.
Okay, and just in case you need the link, I will put it in the Zoom chat right now. And
Thank you.
And then Miranda will soon be linking the video on the Discord server as well.
Yep. All right. Well, on Tuesdays, I do have to hop off pretty much after the class ends. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on Thursday.